You could be the most positive person, but if you're working with a leader who is, even just more reserved, quiet, negative, it really affects you and trickles you whether you know it or not.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? Podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Hey guys, we're doing it right?
We're doing
Right.
it. We're always doing it right. Maybe a little bit wrong, but that's okay too.
Right-ish. Well, today, my friends, we have an interior design organization dedicated to helping people thrive. Of the 32 years the company's been in business, Amanda's been blessed to have served them for over 20 years. As a servant leader, Amanda is often found volunteering, supporting others, and making connections throughout her entire network. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the intro, Colleen.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm so glad you're here. So Amanda, like you said, Cheryl, is part of our Inspire Her indie group. And I'm very, very thankful to have her in the group. She's such a great leader and contributor and brought so much to our group. And so it's been wonderful, but we're so excited to have you here, Amanda, and just to kind of have our audience learn more about you and more about, like what it is to be a CEO of a, small, mid-sized business. And one of the things that we were just talking about before we got on was that IDO has now for the last 2 years been ranked as one of the best places to work in Indianapolis or in Indiana.
Indiana. Best places to work in Indiana.
In the state.
Wow, congratulations.
So that's huge.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we would love to just chat with you, Amanda, about leadership, about creating culture, about creating a workplace that is the best place in the state to work, and just to learn more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I could probably talk to you all day, but to just help navigate whatever you're curious, interrupt me, whatever. So first to set the stage, I know she gave those prestigious titles, which I'm really not a title person. I don't like all the attention, but you have to do that, right? So that kind of happened gradually. So like she said, 20 years, which seems crazy. I know people scratch their heads. They say, I was born there. So IDO was my second of 3 internships. So I did it between my junior and senior year of college. I still did interview outside upon graduation and ultimately accepted the offer, which just turned out to be the best decision I've ever made. Outside of my husband and my kids, of course. But yeah, no, it's been great. I've worked in any and all parts of the business. I feel like different client campuses. So really got a good foundation of the knowledge of the work and everything that we do. The culture will come into it because that's a big part of the story as well. But our owner and founder, previous owner, Jill Mendoza, started the business in 1992 from the basement of her home. Jill planted the seed with myself and my business partner, Lee Boylan. Lee started out as an intern as well. So like I said, I've been here 20 years. Lee's been here 15. I should have brought it so I could grab it, but I actually have a handwritten note from her on Bull State Stationery when she was a student, thanking me for coming and speaking to her class.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Really cool story. Yeah, we actually grew up in the same area. We went to rival high schools, but because of the age, we didn't know each other. But Jill planted the seed with Lee and I in 2017, I believe. She took us to lunch, kind of gave us the idea of her succession planning and what she was thinking. I remember thinking later, we're messaging oh my goodness, is this for real? So we've been gradually working on it since then. So once we kind of put that into place, Jill, the next year worked 4 days a week, 3 days a week, 2 days a week. So Leah and I have been leading and managing it for better part of 2 years or more. But it wasn't until this past October did we get through the ownership piece of it. So that is something I really don't desire to go through again anytime soon. I barely passed business law. So trying to understand that language and what's going on, you have to really rely on a lot of other people and their specialties to get through that. But you asked about the best places to work. So that's just a quick background. That, as far as I know, when Jill, our previous owner, was looking into it, that I don't know how many people you needed to be able to participate, but we were smaller than that threshold.
Okay.
But last year they brought it down to 15 and we just had 15. This past year, we had 16. So we've tried for it the 2 years. We've been eligible and we've received it both times. As I was telling Colleen earlier, both times were great, but it was especially the first year last year that it really just meant so much. And I couldn't even begin to explain it here, but it just wasn't always like that. I've seen positives, negatives, upflow, downflow of culture, leadership, how it influences the team. And just, I mean, you could be the most positive person, but if you're working with a leader who is, even just more reserved, quiet, negative, it really affects you and trickles you whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
So we did go through a period. So it was 2018, 2019, where we did have a lot of turnover. It was kind of when the announcement was brought up about the succession planning and transitioning. Again, I'm not going into details. Those don't need to be shared, but it was just a different time and place.
Mm.
And just with all the dynamics of what was going on. I even have a story that spins off of that, my first battle with mental illness. I'm talking like a handful of medicines, therapists, doctors, counseling. I went through all that. It's nothing that I ever want to go through again, but I'm glad that I did because I've learned a lot from it, and I almost feel like it's explained like a new operating system. Is it perfect? No. I've learned from it, and I actually can, dial it up and down, or like I feel it coming, and I was like, okay, I need to do this. So I'm a huge advocate for mental health. I know that a lot of people, it's like hard to kind of come out because you feel like isolated and that you're alone. But I found like when I opened up about it, it's a bigger network than
Oh,
you
yeah,
think. Or
Yeah.
definitely. I had postpartum depression with my first pretty severely, and then I just have been medicated ever since. And I also, like you said, there's that checklist of things when I start to
Mhm.
feel a little bit down or not myself, which I'm sure everybody listening is like, "What? Cheryl, you're so positive. You're always so bubbly." Well,
I've gotten that as well.
yeah, I can't always be that. That's not
Yeah.
realistic, and sometimes I'm down, and then I have a toolkit, if you will, of items that I know: go outside, go for a walk, move your
Yeah.
body, have you been consistently taking your medication like you should? What have you had genuine connection with somebody lately?
So
There's a
important.
toolkit or a to-do list, if you will, of things I know that I can do to pull myself up out of it, but I want to acknowledge that sometimes that toolkit is not enough and medication may be necessary. So, if that's an
Exactly.
issue for you, talk to your doctor. It's
Oh,
okay.
and I know, and everybody, like with anything, nursing, formula, stay at home mom, working mom, medication, no medication. It's up to the individual. There's
Yes.
no solid answer, right or wrong. I myself have found that the little bit of medication and then doing my part as well is the best situation for me.
Mhm.
Um, you know, taking it down, even getting off it and be like, oh no, like I need that. But then I also like I have to balance too. It's a book that I'd like to throw out there that I recommend to a lot of people. Rebecca Lyons. It's Rhythms of Renewal. So it's Trading Stress and Anxiety for a Life of Peace and Purpose. So she talks about rest, restore, connect, and create. So for instance, I love landscaping. So getting in the herbs, working with the flowers, the plants. I usually go on walks every morning right now because it's nice. I do it with a girlfriend in my neighborhood and we just talk and we do the 3.5 miles or whatever of our neighborhood, and it's fantastic. And I can tell days when I don't get up and do that. I don't have as much energy. It helps set the stage. And I also like to do some reading and devotionals as well in the morning. Again, it's the genuine connections, having I've got a group chat on the phone, and we like mom's night out is what we call it. So we try to get together for dinner, you know, maybe not every month, but every other month. But we're there as a support group and encouragement. If you have something that you want to share or need help with, that those girls are there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that in having had a mental health experience yourself, I'm sure makes you a stronger leader and a more empathetic leader. And you can relate when your employees end up in a
Oh,
mental health
absolutely.
issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and just even the situation that I came in when I was first, like, I didn't know what was going on and how the reactions that maybe I didn't get that I was expecting from others, I didn't get. I'm always pretty sensitive in general. I have strong feelers, I call it, just on people's emotions, reactions, what they're thinking, or whether that's right or wrong. But yeah, I think it's just taking time, stepping back, even if somebody's just being quiet that day. I feel like I'm a patterns and behaviors type person. So I kind of recognize those things. And it's just, instead of coming in and being like, what's wrong with Cheryl today? Well, just be like, maybe ask questions. I think that's the best
Yeah.
thing is just to acknowledge it. And you don't have to dig deep. Like they say, hey, I don't need to know all that's going on, but I can tell you're a little bit off. If you want to talk about it, like, please come to me if you need time to be alone. I respect that as well.
Ugh, I can see why you're getting voted the best place to work. If
Oh,
that's
Yeah.
and
if that's how you're approaching somebody on their down day.
yeah, well, and just, we have other things. One of the girls decided, like, hey, we should do something as a team. We haven't gotten together in a while. So she suggested it would be really fun if we did a murder mystery party. I'm like, what would you like to take those efforts on? So that actually is what we got going on today.
So fun.
This afternoon, kind of went in place of our team meeting, and it's already set up with props. I have my character is Avery Lemon, so that's where all the yellow's coming from. But we even had some like pre-game activities this week where we send messages to the other characters and we play that role and start some dialogue. So it's pretty fun.
That is
I
very
love that
fun.
you let somebody had an idea and, well, two things. One, you were like, love that for you to take on. So it wasn't something that you had to take on, not another thing that you had to take on, but also to give somebody the autonomy and the leadership and the ability to kind of be a leader in a sense in this, for this meeting or for this activity. I think that creates such a nice atmosphere for your employees or, for the people that were under you or with you, right? I'd love for you to chat with us a little bit about like you are one of the best places to work in the state. Like, what does that mean for you? And what is that? How does that show up? And if you asked your employees, what does that mean to them?
Mhm. I mean, a lot of it, you hear the buzzword about culture. What does that mean? Is it the free snacks in the kitchen and the drinks? No, I mean that's nice, right? We like free food and the occasional lunch brought in, but I think it's just what we've created. And again, I think it's benefited us, Lee and I, to be in the company for so long. So we've seen different examples of various leadership styles, techniques, things. Even when we were coming in, like, oh, I wish that we had this, or even when we were just like with young kids coming in, I remember Lee and I don't even have a powwow kind of before, like when we were first coming into those leadership meetings, I'd be like, hey, what's your plan? Like, what time do you have to leave today? She's like, well, I need to cut out like no later than 4. So we'd like support each other in those efforts and make sure like, okay, I'm going to try to leave then too. We'll just go out together because, people wanted to talk or keep the meeting and we were trying to. And so a lot of it, I think, is just based on what we desired and what we wanted, and we want to make sure to pass that on to the team as well. Not everybody celebrates the same holidays. So, like, for instance, we're going to bring in next year 2 extra floating holidays. So, we have the standard ones, but if you celebrate something else or you want to tack on a day, like maybe, Black Friday or I don't know, day after 4th of July if it falls on a Wednesday or a Thursday, just stuff like that. And we instituted a couple years ago. We gave everybody 8 hours. It doesn't roll over, but we call it volunteer time. So it's really just to be used for just that. So whether you speak to your little brother's class about the profession, actually, I think next week when we're scheduled to do our women build, it's Habitat for Humanity, but it's all women. So we have quite a bit. We're teaming up with another company in the industry, Business Furniture. And that's the first time we've kind of asked and teamed with them like we did with Turner Construction, I think our first year. But we've kept it as a regular thing. It's important to take a break, get out and do some other activities, get back to the community. But yeah, we've changed even our meeting cadence. Like I'm like, just because we always did it this way doesn't mean we have to continue. So we've kind of tweaked that as we go
Yes.
along.
Thank you.
Right? Like, and there's even just been little nomenclature things that I don't like. Like, you're talking about employees. I'm like, I don't like saying that. I call them teammates. Like, this is my teammate, so
Okay.
and so. Also, we used to be called like management team. I don't like that. So we changed that to leadership team because we are the ones setting the tone. We want to be one on one intentional with those on our team and lead and direct and influence them in the right way. And then we also have another meeting. It's just a set time every Thursday where we go around and it's just real quick. It can be a real short meeting or it could go on long, but it includes everyone. And we kind of go around the table, talk about our stress load, workload. This is a time to say, what do you need? You need help with this, or hey, I've got time to offer. You're just really getting the communication going and saying, or hey guys, I'm burnout on this. Like, I need to do something else. Can somebody help me get through this? And so we're sharing in that because we do have a variety of work that we do, and some of it's not as fun as others. So we try to make sure we balance that as well. And, if somebody's struggling on like, hey, I've never experienced this. Well, hey, come along with me next week. I have this, and you can kind of shadow.
What I
So,
love that I'm hearing you say, Amanda, is that culture for you also has like it's almost like a system and a process. And Cheryl and I love a system and a process, right? But like you built in a system that allows for a culture. And I think that that is really cool because I think sometimes when we talk about, culture in a business, it does feel like it's intangible or it does feel like you're like, I don't know how to do it. Like maybe we'll just bring in more snacks or more pizza, or maybe we need a ping
yeah.
pong table or whatever it is, right? But
Mhm.
but what I'm hearing is you're like, we've actually been very thoughtful about how this process, about this process and put in some really strategic things that allow, like, you put in the roadmap or the guardrails or whatever for culture and for what sounds like some fairly open communication about.
Oh, absolutely. And we still, they're getting better, but we do have, we try to have that policy. You always have leaders say, my door is always open, but people still don't always feel comfortable doing that. And then I know that I try to, because I don't do as many like one-on-ones as I used to on a more regular basis. But what I do like to do on their working anniversary is I like to like have a one-on-one lunch with them or just check in. And we don't always have to talk about work. Like I just walked down to it's called Fresco on the canal with one of the younger associates. We both had never been there. We'd been wanting to try it. So we walked down there and I got to know about kind of like her family structure, where she came from, her background. And it was great just to get, just from the day to day, just get to know someone on a different level and give them that opportunity. And again, encourage them, say, within reason, like I want to hear all the things. Like a lot of times we don't know, especially being new in this role, you know, you didn't get an instruction manual on how to run a business.
Right.
So, like I want to hear it. Like I'm human too. I'm not perfect. So what do you like? What do you wish could be better? Give me some feedback. I was like, we can't make all the wishes come true, but within reason, we can take that into consideration and make those adjustments. That's something that comes out of the best places to work too, because we have kind of the anonymous feedback. Some of it's just more demographics and data, but some is more like free form, and we get a lot of information from there. And we don't just get it and that's it. We get it, we summarize it, we take it to our team meeting and say, this is what we heard. And they said, this is what we've done already. This is what we plan to put into place. This one's going to take a little bit longer, but like, give us some time. We're going to focus on this. So we're like communicating, because that's the worst thing. If you get anonymous feedback and you don't do anything with it,
Yeah.
that can really boil.
Oh, yeah. I could
Oh,
see how that'd be infuriating as the person that gave the feedback, and then they're like,
Oh, I know.
I
And then
put
like
the effort
nothing's
in."
getting done.
Yeah.
Nothing's getting done.
I came forward, which can be really hard and scary to do, and then no action
And
being
it's just
taken.
like ignored. Yep. So and I know that there's different systems actually back with that time that we don't speak about much, but there was one that came up. There's a lot of online systems that you can do to initiate that,
hmm.
but you just have to make sure someone's dedicated to getting in there, reading it and implementing it
Yeah.
and talking about it, because that was a problem we went through. Somebody took the initiative to do it, but then we weren't evaluating it. We weren't using it. So we'd shut that thing down and kind of start over.
Yeah,
Talk to
that's
us a little
worse
bit
than not
about,
doing it at all.
Yeah.
huh?
And as
Yeah.
I think we hear a lot about like from an employee's viewpoint of like, listen, I provided feedback and now I'm like upset that nobody's doing anything. But talk about from a leadership position or from a position of a CEO, like when you receive that feedback, what's that like? Because that could be
That's a
more intense,
gift.
right? Like what's that
I
like?
know that it
Like,
sounds weird, but it is a gift. I mean, yeah, everybody wants to hear the good stuff, right? But getting that constructive feedback, I mean, that's how you grow and you learn. Just one way. And then when new people come in, that's even, you still have to kind of adjust. There's so many different personalities and types. And there's also things to assess that we're learning, as we're growing and moving into positions. We even, had one associate that was talking. I was like, how do you envision that? Like, how do you see that role? And we try to understand what people like and try to extract that from them. Cause we can, like, just because these are the job descriptions we have now doesn't mean that we can't add one. So what do you like? Oh, okay. Well, let's create this position and maybe this committee. Cause once you can pair people up with what their true passion and their love is, and you put them in there, they're going to do really great. And then that's only going to just trickle to the client and so on.
That
So
reminds me a lot of, and I know I've talked about this book a lot, but the book Unreasonable Hospitality, where he talks about like finding what somebody's good at and then allowing them to do that, or creating something for them so that they can thrive or shine or whatever. It's pulling the line cook off the line because really what he's good at is, being the beer guy that makes the beer tasting menu or whatever, right? Like, I think there's so much to when you're in leadership and, running, I mean, 16 people is a lot of people to manage, right? Like, being to understand and to adjust, like, and we were just talking to somebody about strength, but like to see what somebody's strengths are and then utilize those strengths. I think that sounds like, what you guys are doing at IDO. And I'm I just applaud that, like, as a leader and as a CEO, and to wear that hat and to have those letters after your name. And
you always hear about like getting the right people on the right seat on the right bus. I follow a lot with John Gordon. He has like a daily positive and he had a book, The Energy Bus. And so he describes that as well. You were talking about like strengths and utilizing that. There's also another one that I like to utilize. Patrick Lencioni does one called The Working Genius. So he's got different sections. And so you've got 6 different groups. And that's an assessment tool that I do actually utilize. I know there's so many like DISC and Myers Briggs and all these things, but the Working Genius is more, so it spells widget. So it's wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. So everybody has 2 geniuses essentially and 2 frustrations. And I've got it pinned up right here. I look at that chart all the time because especially being in the creative field, I'm more in the middle. I'm not that blank slate person like the wonder. So we've got some really high creatives that like that blank slate and starting it. I'm more kind of on the discernment enablement. So bring me, what are your thoughts? What are your ideas on that? And then I kind of listen and say, I like that, or hey, let's add this. So we have the different people in those process. Some people are the tenacity who are just like, hey, give it to me. I'll run with it. I'll get this thing done and out the door. So it's important, I think, to find your strengths and partnering with the right people.
I love it. I
yeah,
wanna work there.
absolutely.
Oh,
Well, it sounds like an amazing place to work. Tell us more about what you do, Amanda. Like, what do you guys do at IDEO? Like,
oh, the actual work.
yeah,
Okay.
actual work.
So like she said, yep. So in IDO Incorporated, so we're an interior design organization dedicated to helping people thrive. There's a whole backstory on, everybody always asks what IDO stands for. We'll save that for another time. But we do commercial interior design. So we specialize more in the higher education, healthcare, life sciences type work. We've done a couple of projects recently with government, municipal work. So we're working on a correctional facility, which you think like that's not high design, but there's a lot of psychology that goes behind it with colors.
Wow.
You have a whole array of furniture that you have to look at. I mean, you have to like have all kinds of things like, anti-ligature, like you can't like literally hang yourself off a door. The furniture has to be over a certain weight so people can't lift it and throw it. I mean, you think of it anything because they're trying to get into the infirmary. And anyway, it's a whole other set of rules.
Level of design that I don't think
Oh my goodness.
ever thought of. Holy crap.
Oh, I know. I've learned so much. Yes. But yeah, we've done some local universities, healthcare, like I said. So we get into the design, some environmental design as well, sustainability. If you've ever heard of the leadership in energy and environmental design, we've done that as well. Well certification, which is more on the human side of things. and impact of health and wellness. And then also what's a little bit more unique is the specialized move management, which that could get into the weeds. I'm sure it's not as exciting as the design projects, but it is also we get into laboratory design. So actually like creating something out of nothing of a space with lab benches, utility requirements, get into the details of equipment inventory and making sure everything gets in the right place, moved and set up to eliminate any downtime that the scientists may have for their operations.
Wow.
So,
That's cool.
yep,
So
That
much goes into it that you
there is a lot, and that's a unique one. Everybody's like, what is the move management?" So, and it also goes into smaller things such as offices and people as well. But it also it just kind of dovetails into the design, give a little bit more holistic services. And so we offer a lot within our world of things, even if you get into artwork, branding, graphics, signage, wayfinding, all those kind of things. But we're also big advocates, as you can tell from our communication and collaboration with making those connections outside of our office as well. So we're just the interiors design, but we also really like our relationships as well with the engineers, architects, you name it, anything that's really connected to the space as a whole. Our manufacturers' relationships with furniture, procurement, specification, all the flooring, all the finishes that you'd see in a space. So if certain things we can do in house, but if we can't, we don't like to say, no, we can't do that. We'll say, hey, let us look into it. We don't have an answer for that right now, but let us tap into our network and see what we can do. So we're all about connections as well. And especially being a woman owned business, being a part of some other networking groups like Inspire Her or NAVO or WeBank, Great Lakes Women's Business Council, you name it. There's an organization for everything these days. But I think it's finding those right ones.
Yeah, and if you name it, Amanda's probably in it or been in it. She is like us. She's a joiner. She loves to be in a group. She loves to learn, to participate, to contribute. And I just think that is, I'm just in all of that. That's like,
Well, not all of them. You can't do all of them. I know that there's some like I've been asked to. I'm like, no, I can't.
yeah,
Try to refer someone there. But yes, I think there's a misconception too. Like the more you're in, the better you're off. But you can't. Even talking with our kids do youth sports, you got to pick. You can't
yeah,
do both of those because you're not gonna make. If you're gonna make a commitment to something, you need to be able to go to it. Like, you're not just gonna join it and then go to every third one. Like, that's not fair to the team either.
Yeah, that's one of the, I guess, pillars of the Inspire Her collective that I really try and drive home is we need a commitment because as a
Mhm.
collective, we need to collectively show up for each other
yeah.
as a
Absolutely.
huge
And we,
like attendance and input. And those are all huge pillars
Mhm.
of what needs to happen to make a successful group.
Yeah, and I know people a lot of times will be like, "Well, I didn't get anything out." Like, what did you put into it, though?
Yes.
Um,
okay,
right?
okay.
I mean, it is what you make of it. Like, I mean, depending on what group, I'm pretty, selective of which one. I think I just saw this one on like social media through Maven's Face, perhaps. And I was like, that sounds very interesting. It's a lot of things that I was passionate about as well. And that's another key to joining a group. You don't just join a group because it's on your resume or whatever to show off and take pictures. Oh, this was fun. It's more like just it's different for everybody. Everybody's not going to join the same groups or find the benefit out of the same groups.
So I think you just mentioned kids sports. Are
Yeah.
you a mom? Are you a working mom?
Oh yeah. Yes. Our oldest is Carson. He's 14, so he's going to be a freshman this fall, which I don't even know how that's possible. And then our daughter Riley, she's going into 7th grade.
So
So 2 years.
how is the juggle of being a CEO and running a business with having the kiddos doing all the sports, doing all
Well,
the things?
again, I think it's part of that learning process. I mean, that was something that kind of played in with the mental health, just trying to do it all and then just realizing you can't and you got to be strategic. You got to learn to say no and be okay with it. You got to be flexible and
Yeah.
constantly shuffling, something kind of along those lines that I like to kind of articulate or promote to the team as well. I use the example as if somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, are you busy?" I don't answer with a yes or no. I say, "What do you
Maybe.
need?"
Yeah,
Like,
It depends.
what is your need? Because I could be really swamped, but what they have for me might take me like a minute or two. But then, keep them going. Otherwise, they could be like spinning their wheels, but I'm keeping them going just by spending that 1 minute.
That's such a great
Right.
lesson in leadership, right? Because somebody could be waiting for you
Yeah.
to just say yes or no. And that could be
Mm-hmm.
holding up so many other things, right? But if you're not approachable, if you're not willing to give that moment in time to somebody to say, what do you need?
Yeah.
I think that is,
Or how can I help?
how
Is
can I
is the
help?
better phrasing. Yeah.
Yeah, how can I help? Or what is it that you need? Or how can I be helpful? And I'm sure there's times where people come to you and you ask that and you say, well, I can't do that right now, but I can do that another time. Right. But, there are so many instances where as a leader, somebody's going to come to you and say, and I need you for this. And you can say yes. And then it's done. Right. Like, or you can say no, and then it's done. And otherwise, that if you're not allowing for that space, you're not allowing people to be, approaching you, or you're not approachable, you're really slowing down the efficiency of your business, right? Like there's so much
Yes.
efficiency
Absolutely.
in it.
Yes.
And I loved when you were talking about the lab stuff and the movement efficiency and like, yeah, because there's so much of that in business too, right? Like that
Mhm. Mhm.
is part of that, right? Like how are you setting up the systems? How are you setting up your business? How are you setting up your communication lines to allow for efficiencies? Like quickly without
Mhm.
having to do a lot of things. And if you're leaving your door open, but literally and figuratively, but also setting boundaries for that, I think that is helpful, and that creates
Mhm.
efficiencies in your business.
And I think it's just being intentional with your time too, because I don't feel like I mean, my husband is great too with his job and being able to help, especially during this season. My parents just moved down a year ago. They used to be 90 minutes away at the house I grew up in. Now they're in a condo 10 minutes away.
Mm.
So that goes both ways too, with us helping each other, us to them and them to us. And just having grandparents nearby is great. My mother-in-law is also about 30 minutes away. So having that family support is important. I also show working moms too, like, how you pin messages on your iPhone and like, this is the baseball curveball, this is the volleyball group, this
Yeah.
is and so it's relying on your networks too. And so it's again systems and processes, right?
Yeah, it's setting up those. I mean, we talked about this,
You
but it's
can't not do it all yourself.
oh my gosh, no, like you have to have your
No.
team, whatever you want to call it, right? You have to have your team, you have to have your crew, you have to have your systems, you have to whatever it is. That's how you function as a working
Mhm.
parent, right? Like,
Mhm.
because you just physically can't be in more than one place at one time. You know?
Yeah.
My dad owned his own insurance agency, and I was the filer. I would
There
Oh,
go
you
in and
go.
file, file, file.
you guys don't
Yep.
know what I did as a child. My parents, so basically I worked in a factory. So there were so
Oh.
many labor laws broken as a child. But I mean, I think that's part of it also when your parent is either a business owner or, like an employee that is dedicated to their job or whatever. Like as a kid, you become that becomes a little bit a part of you and you're involved. And when you're especially in a leadership position or have your own business or an entrepreneur, your family is part of it, right? Like
Mhm.
I do not see how aligned to be drawn between those things because you are a whole person, right? So there's been plenty of times where my kids have had to come with me to things, or I have been able to do things because I'm going to, and my kids, like that's just part of the deal.
So how
Yep.
involved is your husband in your business? Speaking of family
Oh,
involvement in business.
he has his own separate job.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then you just have to work through each
We
other's
we
schedules.
communicate. Yep. We even I feel like just the last couple days have been a little bit busy with the calendar. We were running through it. And we even made a last minute swap before we went to bed that night of like yesterday evening. We swapped kids basically. Like, okay, no, that makes more sense that you would go there. That way I don't have to leave my event early. And we're always saying, like, communicating back and forth. Well, I had to go to the store for this. So I went ahead and picked up this, this, and this. And like, okay, great. I'll go to the, grocery later in the evening or, hey, the dog's been out.
So funny that you brought that up because the other day I was texting with my husband, like coordinating. I was like, listen, I've got him. I've got a meeting at 3 o'clock. I got to meet a contractor at 3 o'clock. I need you to leave work so that you can take Vivian to horseback riding. I usually take her. But I was like, I'm going to be down. I was kind of close to his work where I needed to be. And I'm going to be down there and I need to meet this contractor. So I need your help. And he was like, he's like, do you want me to meet the contractor or do you want me to take Vivian to horseback riding? I was like, no, like that's my job. So that's like so I'm going to meet the contractor. But I love that he was like ready to jump in and like help in that way. And that was so funny. I was like, I mean, that would be great, but no, like I need to meet the contractor.
Yes.
But thank you for offering and you just need you to take our kid to the
Oh, I always say, like, I just, like, can't even imagine, like, single parents, like, how they manage all that. Like, I'm very blessed. My husband and I have also been together 20 years as well. We met in high school.
Oh,
So we've been together a long time. So again, that's another team environment and communication. Like, and then some days it's so busy, it's like in the morning we kind of just run it over. Okay, well, I'll see you in bed tonight.
Oh, yeah.
You know, 'cause we're split. We only have two.
yeah.
So I can't imagine the people that, you know, are in zone defense here with
Listen,
with
we're in
more
zone
than two.
defense. Cheryl and I both are
Colleen
running
and I.
zone, you know, and I was raised by a single mom and my sister is a single mom. So I am very familiar with what that is. And that's a team effort that, you know, like and when in those situations, again, we talked about this, like you have to find your team, right? Like because you don't have that built-in partner, and maybe you don't always have family, you know, but you got to find your team. You find the people,
Yep.
you know, no matter what. Like, I think that's just an important key to success and success while purity. It's like you need a team. You need a whole group.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm not really running zone because we have an au pair. So it still is man
You're
to
still
man.
man, but
We're still man to man.
oh, well, yeah, you've said
Well,
that.
for 45 hours a week, we're man to man. And then we're zone in the evenings and on the weekends.
Yeah, but that's part of your team that you've set up. Like I just
Yeah.
you like that's just part of it, right? Like that is
Who
those
not
are-
how?
who not
Yeah.
how.
Who
Oh
not
my God.
how?
That's the
Mhm.
book that we're reading. I just recommended for our brokerage to read as a team. Oh, such a good book. Oh my God. Everybody needs to listen to their book for so many parts of not just business, for life too. Like, and parenting.
How can our listeners find you and work with you if they are interested in an IDO and what you do?
Yep. So the website simply is IDO Incorporated.com. We are also on most every social media platform. Main ones, of course, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram are the main ones as well.
I feel like with your culture, you could be doing some TikTok dances.
Maybe, gosh, I'm gonna have to have a tutorial on that.
Yes. Oh my
I'm
God.
sure your 14-year-old could show you.
Possibly. Might be the 12-year-old girl though.
Oh yeah, that
Yes. Yeah.
that
Well,
Oh,
seems
thank you
that's
more
so
honest.
much, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming on here and for sharing with us
Anytime.
and being so honest.
Happy to.
We really, really appreciate it. And we're so thankful to have you.
Love it. Thank you so much, Amanda. We'll see you next time.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth. And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.